Okay. Um, Today we are going to be doing the last few things about AutoCAD, and we're also going to do a classwork. After this one that I'm doing, you do your own classwork. That is basically you're going to build a very small scene, 3D scene, light it up, add camera, render it out. So the scene could be of any concept of your own. If you want to put boxes and cylinders in a kind of abstract setting, no problem. You want to create a chair and table with drawer, no problem. You want to create whatever I want to create. So we're going to have an abstract scene, and then you can render it out. If you like, you can create this like this scene that I had, these Boolean tools. You can just create a table, put those things on top of a table, then light them up, the camera to view them, the shadows and stuff. Whatever it is, but we are going to take 30 minutes today to create a scene by yourselves. I won't direct that. The only direction I'll direct is at the end of it. 30 minutes, I'll say, okay, time up, and then listen. But we're going to finish up with this, what we started yesterday, working with the visualization section. So open up that file, visualization. Uh, it's just a basic, simple um, simple drawing of a table, a chair, and a lamp in a small room. Don't remember whenever you are doing AutoCAD, don't be look the way this 3D is looking like Kwashoko. Not looking, it's not looking nice. But remember why it's not looking nice. Jason, do you remember why it's not looking nice? I'm asking you, asking me why. Yes. This doesn't look like it's really, looking at this. Okay, looking at this floor now, does it look very proportional? Looks like there's a mistake somehow. Good. That's concept. So, can you remember why it's like that? Or who can remember why it's like that? Anyone? No one? Okay, it's looking like this because this is an axonometric view. Remember, axonometric views cannot judge distance. They measure based on actual size, not distance. So you can't judge distance with it. And like I told you, if you want to change to perspective, is to right click on the cube wheel, okay, and change to perspective view so that it has a more perspective look, 3D like look. You know, you can judge perfectly, right? But when you have to do with plotting and modeling in AutoCAD, or if you later get to learn it, Revit, you can't model in perspective view nicely. That so you have to model in the axonometric view or the parallel view. So they always change back to parallel. So it looks weird, but at least it will help you without confusion. Okay, so we are going to talk about materials. That like from where we stopped yesterday. Materials. We're going to talk about lighting, camera, and rendering. To finish up on all this stuff. Like I said, we will do more modeling in 3ds Max and Maya. which I prefer. I prefer to model there. It's very, very tedious modeling in AutoCAD. But like I said, it's just for you guys to have a concept that is based on our course outline, to have a concept of how modeling is. If you look at our course outline, it's not very bulky. It's just basically using all these stuffs. So we are dealing with materials, lights, camera, environment, rendering, and all the stuff, and then how to print it out. So that's the last part for this section, and then we'll go into 3ds Max, very complex software. When you think about that software, it can give you goosebumps. It's like going to write quantum physics. All right. So first of all, let me change from shades of gray to realistic so that it looks more, when you add the materials, you can see. All right, are we ready? We're ready, right? We all have the scene. Cool. Do we all have the scene in our systems? Right. Who is knowing? Who are you? Sorry. Your own is on purpose. Okay, so these are just four elements. I'm going to add materials for the table, the legs of the table, the chair, the walls, and the floor. So, like I said, there's a way to add color to the objects, and it doesn't make it or tell you whether it's going to be glass or this just gives a color so that like now this is realistic view, it's looking very bland. Okay, so if I had layers, for instance, if I created multiple layers, I'll put maybe walls in one layer, put the floor in one layer, put the furniture in one layer and stuff like that, and then colorize the layer. So for instance, let's say this guy now, this wall, let me just make a copy of it and move it somewhere here. So I could say, all right, this wall, I want to create a new layer. Um, and that new layer, I'll color it blue. Okay, click OK. Just that. Then I select the wall and change the layer to blue. Automatically, the wall is blue. So it's just basic, but it doesn't tell me what kind of wall it is. It's just blue. So that's not what we are doing. We are dealing with materials and sorry, the kind of I described what materials mean, and it has to do with more than just color. It has to do with reflection, transparency, refraction, luminosity, bumps or displacements, and other attributes that allow you determine whether the material is going to be wood, glass, plastic, rubber, Bleen, Lambert, um, clothing material, texture, whatever it is, you can tell by looking at it that okay, this is glass, or this is wood, or this is water. So in 3D, we use the term materials, and then we use the term texture when you are trying to add an external file to that material. Maybe like you design the logo, you want to place the logo on the material. So you that thing that you're doing is you're adding a texture to that material, which you can now adjust. So the material window, like I said yesterday, is found under visualize, your visualize menu, making sure that you are in 3D modeling or 3D Basics, any of them, but preferably 3D modeling. Visualize, we have materials browser here. So you click on that and it opens the browser here. You will need to click on whatever you have here, probably home or whatever it is on your system based on the name of your own system. You can click on the cross and Autodesk, then you see all the materials that are uh, based inside the software. This software's library, material library, Autodesk library. So for the floor, I want to add flooring, and probably I want to add something like tile, and then I want to add a basic, okay, no, let me make wood floor, and let me use this beech wood. So to add a material to an object, you just click on the material and drag it on top of the object, simply like that. And the material will be added. That's one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is to select the object, then right click on the material and assign. So for these walls, I want to select both of them and I want to assign a wall material. So I look for wall. So I have wall cover, I have wall paint. So let me use wall paint and matte and probably do since I have a brown floor, I think I can do something cream, that looks creamy. Mm, I don't want complete white. So let me do wheat. So now the walls are selected. So I want to use the second method. You can just right click on the material and assign to selection, and it will do the same thing. It will still assign the material whatever was selected. So pick pick your choices. When you have picked your choices, let me know. I will come and check what you have picked. I feel like hmm, I feel like pounded yam and white soup right now. Jason Bo, Jason Bo, Jason Bo, King Jason. Let me see how Jason is coloring his house. Blue, brown, black, and brown wall. Okay. My first vision was honestly detective room. Interesting. No, open the file now. I gave you a file. You didn't put it in the system. That's AutoCAD files I gave you. Don't have it. Are you sure? Oh, because I gave you copied it. I'm still looking for the file. No, this is obviously you didn't save it in AutoCAD sheets. No. Where did you save it as AutoCAD? Uh, this After Effects. Maybe this one. No, these are the recordings I did. Where your this one is Premiere Pro. You can see AutoCAD here. So see the files of PDX has visualization. This calculator, let's close it so I have more space. So change this one to realistic. So then go to visualize. So materials, I say the other one, the one on top. Mm. To open that, so that will. Okay, so now these are all the materials. So click on the cross in the home there. Yeah, to open, click it. Then click on AutoDesk. No, the cross. Yes. So for floor, look for flooring. You see flooring here. So you can click on it or open here, then pick one of the wood material and drag on the floor. Good. Then for the walls, same thing. There's walls down. Just scroll. Just you see wall paint. So pick the wall paint and drag on the walls. That you drag the same paint around. Semester 3 work files. Yeah, yeah. So 3D exercise files. Visualization. This one. Last one. Forward guy. Right. That's cool. Good job. There seems to be a problem with the way our wood is, especially okay, looking at my own wood. What what looks like the problem? It looks like the wood is too big. Mm. The the floorboards are too big. Good. So we want to adjust that doing a UV placement. We want to reduce the way it shows here. Um, Firstly, any material you add to your scene will show here in this top view, this place here, every material you use. So that if you want to reuse that material, you don't have to come to this place again. Just pick it from here. So our wood is not displaying well. It should, those floorboards are too, it looks like Jerry's room. Jerry, yeah, because it's the only one that will have where the wood will be this big. So what you can do is select the wood. You can double click on it or select it and click on this edit. That is that pencil. Either way, it will open up an editor for that texture. So just click on that and to open up the texture editor or the material editor. So do we have that? Good. All right. To work on the material, this is the image that AutoCAD is using to wrap around that object. So double click on the image to get into the texture placement. It will open this UV setup for you. So right now, the setup is showing that the material is spread across this floor 914.4 by 914.4, which is very large for that scene. So we need to reduce this size. So down at the bottom here, you have the scale. Double click on the image. So you scroll down, you'll see the scaling there. So let's 914 is high. Let's try something like 300. 300 by 300. Let's see what it will look like. I think 300 by 300 is already looking nicer. Yeah, 300 is fine. 300 is fine. I don't know the kind of wood you are using though, but it might be different in yours. So, but a smaller number is fine. If you want to, like, my 300 by 300 is fine, even though somehow, for some reason, I think my width is still quite long. You can turn off um, um, the aspect ratio, that's chain there, so that you can change them individually. So probably let me reduce my width to 200 and see what it looks like. Okay, no, I think 300 for the width is fine. I'll reduce the height to 200. All right, so it's looking a little bit better for me. All right, so that's generally how to adjust your placement of your textures. What this repeat means based on the size of the image, the material you are wrapping the image around might be larger than the original image. So repeat style means whenever the image finishes, it repeats itself again. It continues like a child, like it's joining themselves or stitching the images together. Okay, so we have other options like none, which will make it if the thing no if it's not long enough. Let me not speak broken pidgin English here. If it's not long enough, it will cut it like you can see here. If you look at the image, I've turned horizontal to none, so you see that it's not tiled, so it's leaving part of my floor empty because the based on this, the horizontal distance, that is the width, is supposed to be 300. My floor is longer than 300, so the material will not stretch beyond that. It will just stop at 300 based on that. So that's the essence of tiling. Sorry. So that's the essence of tiling. So wherever the material stops, it starts again and continues to fill up all the spaces. All right, so that's fine. Well, if you are done with it, you just close with X to close them. Um, if you want to change anything, like right now, this floor, it has a semi-gloss varnish, basically like the polishing generally. So you can change it to glossy, you can change it to satin or unfinished. Unfinished is just going to be very rough. It won't have this shiny feel. It'll be like if you just peeled it off the back of a tree, thereabouts. Stop. Okay. Are we good? Um, Alex, any issues? Okay. Okay, so we've added material for the wall and the floor. Well, let's also do that for the table and the lamp holder here. For the lamp holder, that's the bar and the rim. We want to use aluminium, something aluminium or something metallic. So you can check for metal or metallic and pick a pick a material and drop it there. So under metal, you will have aluminium. Then you have metallic paints. You can pick a metallic paint. So design the room your choice. Pick one of the options, but let it be consistent. That's the pole and the rim of the pole or the stand of the pole should be the same material. So you can select both of them first and then pick a material and add. So I will use this aluminum dark for mine. Or, okay, no, oh, this looks better. Anodized dark bronze. I'm going to use that one. Assign to selection. Yep, like that one. Then I also want to select the table, um, the stands of the table and the chair. So one, two, three, four, select five, six, seven, eight. I want to orbit around and select the back of the chair, all these guys. 7, 12, 13. Just those sides. That's the backrests, the legs of the chair, the legs of the table. I want them to all be the same material. So I will use basic aluminium, the first aluminium on my aluminium list, and assign to that selection. Don't forget, orbiting around is shift and middle mouse. Middle mouse alone is to pan, then scrolling the middle mouse is to zoom. So orbit round, zoom, pan as much as possible so you can get all the fields. Remember in AutoCAD, you don't hold shift to select multiple things. You just click on them and they select. You want to deselect, just escape, press escape, or shift and select the thing again to deselect it. Then for the tabletop, I don't know about you, but I want to do glass. So I'll go under glass and find a very nice color. Need to use, I think I'll stick with one of the blues, this blue glazing probably. I'll put it on the glass. And then for the chair, the seat of the chair, I want to do fabric, a leather fabric. So something light brown or yeah, okay, I think that will be fine. As a nation we got for bid. Right, so fabric, I'll do, let me see, that there might be something else I like. Okay, let me do, instead of a simple, let me just do brown gel, this beige, I'll drop it there. Okay, Then this the glass of this the lamp, I'll use glass as well. So is it? What you want use it for? If you use iron, your light to go show for the room. All right. So I think I'll also use, but I'll use blue reflective for this. Okay. Right. Probably I will. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, so material is done. So that's cool, right? Okay. Now, if for some interesting reason you want to do something else that's not here, maybe I want to change a material. I like the wood that AutoCAD has, but probably I downloaded my own material. Okay, so let me not do it on my wood. Let me create uh, an object here, and so let's say I have this box, and I apply. Um, yep. No, those guys because you are dragging it to that one. When you select multiple, just right click on that on the material that you want to use. No, no that one you are dragging. Um, right click. No, yeah, that one you are dragging. Don't like right click on it. You are left clicking. Then assign to selection. Then to assign to selection. The dragging will only go to one, but when you have a lot of selections, you can right click and assign to selection. Okay, I was trying to see something like, let's say, like this burgundy now, I assign it to this wood or to this box here. It's a nice material, but I don't want to use it. I want to use something I downloaded or from online, or maybe something I created with Photoshop, with material I created with Photoshop. Okay, so the same way I'll do as if I want to edit that material. So I go in, then I click on the image the same way, click on the image, and in the setup here, I have the source where this image is gotten from. So if I want to change my source, I just click on that link, then go to my system wherever I have my own textures that I want to use. So let's say for me, or for all of us, because I think I gave all of us the same files under the. Yeah, I just now want to show an example. I don't want to edit what we have. So I added a new material to that box. So I also want to show how to change your textures to something that you personally used, not from AutoCAD's library. Let me do it again. Let me do it again. So I just created something separate um, from my scene, so that it doesn't. Because if you change it from here, even the ones that have it here will change as well. So I created that box. I added a new material. I want to edit the material on that box. Editing it here doesn't change it from here. This is the source, that is the AutoCAD's library. It's if I come and change it from here that it will change forever. Okay, but I'm changing it from the top one. This is what is applied to my scene. So changing it here will not change it down here. Okay, so that's why I'm using this. So the same way as if I want to play with the textures, I double click on this, and when it's opened, I can see the source where this image is gotten from. That's the source. So let me shift this out. We'll see the changes when it happens. So you click on the source, and it shows you where it came from, obviously. So I'm going to go into my own file where I have my own textures. You guys will be stored in semester 3 files, I think under Maya textures, something like that, one of them. So I go in there, I go to my file, I'm looking for where I put my own textures. So I think it's under Maya work, Maya work, Maya textures. So I can pick a texture from here. Let me make thumbnails so that I can see what I want to pick. So let's say I pick brick wall or stone. Let me use this gravel, graphite or something. And I click open. So it now updates that one and changes it here. Then I can now do the scaling thing I did earlier. Maybe 200 and something like that. So I now I've changed the material I used here on this guy. But the burgundy is still burgundy in the Autodesk library. So that's why you don't edit this one. Edit the one that has already been added to your scene. Otherwise, once you edit this one, that is as good as Zen Control Spoil because you may not be able to locate it again unless you took note of where it came from. So why I'm saying that is there are times you may actually want to use your own design, your own um, uh, downloaded materials. So you don't want to use AutoCAD Zone. AutoCAD has a very rich material library, but probably it's your own logo that you want to apply on the wall or something. So you just go and change it. Yeah. Okay, so that's by the way. Okay, any questions? Don't worry, the play of materials in AutoCAD is not as versatile as the 3D softwares we'll be entering next. So I will really deal with that one, materials there. How you can create a material, especially on a 3D model. When you wrap a material around the model, you can actually export the material as a file. So it will kind of unwrap it, the material to be a flat plane. I don't know if you guys have seen things like that before. Let me see if I have something close. Should. Um, let's see. I have one here. Uh, okay, see this fish, transparent, spectral, and stuff. Let me just see if I open it. When you unwrap a material, it always looks very funny. It looks like yeah, it's something like this. This is the object is wrapping around, but look at how it looks like when it's stretched. So, but when you place it on the model, it will adapt itself to the shape of the model. But you unwrap it to be something like this, a rectangular view, and then export it as a file. So that, for instance, you created the model in Maya, you have the UV map, Then you open something like 3ds Max or Blender. Then you want to use that same UV map but on another object or on something similar. So you will need the UV export of that material to wrap. It's not as if you go and start recreating your materials over again. So you're just gonna use it. And many times in 3D, you can go and download a UV map of another object and then use it to wrap around something else. So uh, that's what it means by the material wrapping. So look at this now. This is what I was talking of. This is a model I made um, that I will give you guys to play with. But see how the material looks like when unwrapped. It looks funny, right? You're saying things like right? So this is an unwrapped material. This is the diffuse. The diffuse is the main or the base color of that material. The software will also do the glossy part of it. That is the part of it when light hits the object, it's kind of has some shine and specular. We have the normal, which will show things like the roughness. On the human body is not very smooth, so it's kind of rough. So it's a little bit different. You have the body specular. You have then this is the dress I made. So the wrapping of the cloth. So this is the unwrapping. So and this is the bottom layer. So this is the shoe. It doesn't really look like shoe now, but it's unwrapped. But it's the material I did. So in a 3D model, just like we are doing here now in AutoCAD, these things we are adding on these objects is not just like a paint, it's wrapped. So if you export it, it will come out like that. Then anywhere you now, any object else you put it, it will wrap around that object. So that's what texture wrapping or mapping is all about. Your wrapping it. So like I said, in the 3D softwares that I'll be dealing with, I will show us how to do that. So that you can export. You can actually go to Photoshop and create it first by yourself before you bring it into your 3D object. Okay, so I want to render the scene to see what it looks like. It's always good to do that. No matter the software you are using, don't be convinced by what you are seeing on your viewport. That is not how it will look like when it comes out. So the viewport is just GPU, just is working based on what it feels will work well. So for us to render this scene, I would like to add a camera to the scene so that I have a good view. You can render it like this, but rendering in 3D is best when you set up a specific camera and you now do some camera settings to give you a specific result. You can even get depth of field and the rest, but like this, you can't get depth of field. So the camera is just a fictional object that imitates real life cameras with all the settings. So for us to create our camera, still under visualize. Remember, I talked about all this stuff. I said, um, in case I'm not there, you forget. Just look at the names, the topics of the ribbon, the menu, ribbon tabs, has to do with what you are looking for. What do we use camera to do? To look through, to look at something, or so basically visualizing something, right? So it will be under the visualize tab. Don't go and look for camera under parametric or mesh or surface. You won't find it there. So it is not a mesh or a surface. So, but you use it for visualizing, for seeing something. So we'll see camera. So creating a camera is a two-click thing. If you click create camera, two things occur. You need to specify a location. You can specify any location right now you're seeing. Just click anywhere first. And once you do that, The next thing is to specify somewhere in your scene you want the camera to be looking at. So like a point of interest kind of thing. So I will select this table, somewhere on this table. It's easy to select because, because of all those our snapping, you can snap to anything in your scene. So I will snap to this corner of the table here and specify the look. Once I do that, I accept the changes. So obviously you can press enter. Although from this location, these things here, you can make more adjustments. So I'll just press enter and my camera will be looking at that thing. Okay. Have you set up your camera? Okay. Just let me do it again. Let me set it up again. Let me delete the camera. Click on create camera. Mm. Specify a point anywhere in your scene. Just doesn't matter. It's a two-click thing. So specify a point first anywhere in your scene. Then, secondly, specify what your camera is looking at in your scene. So because our scene has objects, we can snap to one of our objects. So just snap anywhere, maybe on somewhere on top of the table, maybe on top of the leg or the edge of the table or something. Just click that. Once you've done that, press enter to accept what you've done. If you don't accept what you've done, you can go and change one of the options there, but just press enter for now and let that be selected. So your camera is now on scene. We have that, right? We all have that. Amir, you have that? Good. Select your camera. Do you have this? It pops up. Good. This shows what your camera is seeing. Do you like what it's seeing? No, it's not accurate. I don't, my camera is looking through my wall. If okay, you are in wireframe, so you won't notice until you turn it to one of the views. So you won't you won't like it. So that's why what we want to do now is the reason why we set a point of interest. We need to move the camera and let it still be connected to that point of interest. So if there's no point of interest, it's very hard to set up a camera. Um, let's say I want to focus on this cup. In real life, when I hold my camera, okay, I will just carry the camera stand and stand wherever I want to stand and then position the camera good. So this is in real life, so I can't hold the camera. So everything I have to do, I have to first move, then rotate, then move, then rotate, then move, then I'll be doing all that rotating to get the point. But for easy movement, rotation and position, the point of interest just puts a target. This is the target. So if my camera was facing like this, if I move my camera to that door, the camera by itself will be rotating to keep focusing on that target. So that's what the POI is basically doing. So right now, if I just move my camera like on the, let's say on this green view, you can see it's already rotating by itself from the view there. Yeah. If I click on this and I move, you can see the camera is rotating by itself. I'm not rotating, I'm just moving, but based on the point of interest, the camera is adjusting itself. So let me zoom out. Let me get a good wide angle, something like this, and move it here, somewhere here, move it back a little bit, something like this. So remember, this is AutoCAD, so don't click and drag. Just click and let go of your mouse. Click on an axis, let go of your mouse, and adjust. You click and drag it. Eh? No, as in click and drag like this. That's not how AutoCAD works. So if you are clicking and if you are clicking the mouse, you're just doing your own thing, suffering yourself. Click on the axis and move. When you get to where you want to go, click out. Here. Yeah. So you can change your angle. You can click on an axis point to move in two directions at the same time. And so let me do like this. Let me change this to realistic or shades of gray so that you see what I'm looking at. So let me just look at realistic. Now, to adjust your focal length is just to click on one of these controllers here, and you can adjust the focal length of the camera to increase it or reduce it to bring it closer. Okay. Right, so do we have a good position of your camera? Once you have a good position of your camera, just stop the movement. Yeah. Okay. Let's say this is what I want to view. So have you gotten a good position? I know it takes some time, but just keep going, keep going, keep going. So it's always good to make sure you are seeing what your camera is seeing. Because if you first put camera and you don't preview it, you might not get the results you are looking for. Okay, so now I want to store this view. I want to record this view as a primary view. In some scenes that you set up more than one camera. So, but you can store our views, just like how we have our perspective, top, right, front, and this. So I want to store this view as well as my camera view. So from your camera, you can just right click on the camera and click on set camera view. This will store that view as a view added to your perspective. So right click on the camera and set camera view. Good. So now the camera view is set for you. Okay. In your this thing, custom view here, custom model views, you can see camera. That is the view you are on. You can change to perspective or any of the other views afterwards, like top view or front view, or at least you will now have also a camera view. Okay. Are we good? Okay. If you want to make more adjustments, it's the same way we did the camera. So you can still work on the lens of the camera to make it to change the lens and stuff like that. So, so that's you. That's this camera view. Okay, so let's render the scene and see what it looks like. Um, if you click on still in that visualize that we are in, this place has a teapot. I don't know what Autodesk has with teapot. You know why they like teapot. I heard that it's the teapot is like an inside joke amongst 3D artists. Like okay. Because it's like one of the basic things that people model like in all the time. So like the teapot tends to come up with a lot of imagery. No imagery. Okay. Because from rendering um, experiences, if you want to render a chair, it doesn't have very plenty corners. It's kind of straightforward. Just the top, the side, the legs. You want to render a computer, it's basically straight, but like a teapot, it has a lot of deformations within it. So it kind of creates a little bit more detail for your rendering, for at least for you to test your render or your materials with. So okay, so don't click on the teapot. Click on this where we have render and um, this small arrow there. We will see render environment and exposure. That's what we want to do. Render environment will give you this kind of environmental rendering. In some software, we call it global illumination to create an environment where the lighting from the environment becomes the lighting for your scene. So if you click on render environment, you have right now environment is off. If you turn it on, it will create a fictional environment in your scene. You have um, custom backgrounds or IBL backgrounds, image backlighting backgrounds that you can check. You can change from sharp highlights to any of these options here. Like let's say we do snow field, which will create a snow field. Let me come out of the camera so you see what I'm looking at here. So to create a kind of snow field environment, I will create dry lake bed or bed. You create a kind of dry lake bed. It's just like creating an environment where your scene is set up. Sometimes this is better than having to model an object and start modeling the environment again. So you just use a fictional environment. When you are doing modeling, I talked about that one when we started 3D, the basic modeling. Two things, when you are modeling props or architectural, which is environmental, props are things that your object, your character will hold. Things like briefcases, hammers, guns, knives, all the stuff. If those things will not be engaged in the animation, like now, if I'm rendering somebody on a computer or I'm modeling somebody on a computer, and this desktop will not be used as in to not be engaged, as in the guy will not have to lift it up or push it or do anything, it's best to use a HDR render or an image instead of crafting out the actual design. Just use an image. Just like how this environment is. I don't need to start rendering trees and clouds and everything. Just put the environment. The character is not going to catch a cloud. If there is a cloud it's going to catch, I will model that particular cloud, but I won't model all the clouds. You understand? Because when rendering, it renders polygons. It converts your objects to images. So the more things you have in your scene, the longer time it takes to render. The more materials you have, the longer time. And sometimes, depending on the weight of the materials or the polygons in your object, it can crash your system. Because before the system will read it, it will start breathing. So that's why when you are doing architectural, if it's a building, a house, like a castle or whatever it is, if you're not going to do a camera walkthrough, that camera will enter inside the building or the character will enter inside the building. Just put the building as an image. That's the best option for you. Okay, so that's what this image-based stuff helps. Then the software will now use the lighting of that image to light up your scene, a fictional light, like an ambient light. So let me try this direct bed, okay? And close this. Let me switch back to my camera mode. So now I can now render to size. Okay, you guys can click on your render. So this is what I have now. Yeah, click on it, just render to size. Is that empty? Okay. No, it won't do anything. Do we have a rendered view? The lighting in my scene is because of the environment I chose, dry lake bed, so it's looking yellowish. So if I switch my environment to something else, um, if I switch it and render, let me use just render to size. No need to click on the arrow, just click render to size. It will just create a render. Yeah, this is the problem. Okay. So I changed my environment to snowfield. You see I have a different coloration now. It's picking up the supposed lighting of the environment and applying it. Let me see it. Yes. Oh, the media image there. Okay, it needs to be. Okay. Let it run. It's still. Oh, okay. It will still render. What it's doing, it's like a V-Ray, it's like an engine that's to come. So now this lighting that we have is based on what is selected here. If you turn it off, it will render without that lighting. It will render with the basic AutoCAD lighting. So if anytime you change the image-based lighting, it will also change how your scene looks like. Yeah, what 80% of the time you don't use this lighting. You create your own lights in your scene. Mhm. No, don't don't save that. Let it load. Did it wait, close this first because I'm not seeing it initializing. Um choose your Click on custom view. So you save your camera view, right? Go to your camera. Go to your camera. Mm-hmm. Render. No, see the image is already on. So just turn it on. No, turn it on. Render. Click. Click. Just click on the teapot. Yeah, yes. Let you go. Switch it to your camera. So this is where you set your camera for. That's what you should do. You save your render if you want it to save. Otherwise, this is a preview render. It doesn't save until you save it. Oh, I don't. No. Oh, yes. Are you not following me now? No, I don't think so. So create a camera, click somewhere. They said click on something else in your scene to target. So click, then press enter to condition that. Now, when you click on the camera, you can see what your camera is looking at. Adjust the camera to click yes and adjust it so that you can get a good look of your scene. Mhm. You can use this to change your focal length, what the camera is seeing. Okay, now right click on the camera. No, the camera, not even the camera. The camera, just clicking on the icon, the arrow. Come down small. See the camera here. Right click there. Good. Set camera view. Good. That is now stored. So we want to render this view now. So click on this arrow. Good. Click on the first one. Yes, I will add an environment. Good. So turn it on. So let's use this basic environment first. Click render. No, click on the allow it to render. Okay. So based on this environment, that is the lighting that is on this camera. If you change the environment to something else, let's close this down. Change the environment to something like plaza now, let me see. So see how it has changed here. When you render it, it will give a different view because it's taking lighting from the image to light the camera, to light the scene. Ever. So it's something you should play around with. But like I said, 80% of the time, what's off? Is it on? What's on? Yeah. How come I didn't see it? Okay. So 80% of the time, we don't only render with the environment in your scenes. Is it 80% or 90% of the time? We use lights in our scenes. Lights add character to your scene. So most times, um, basically, we use what we call a 3-point lighting system. You can use more than 3 lights, but the basic one is a 3-point lighting system. You can use one light if you like, but basically, we have a 3-point lighting system. So 3 point lights. You should have a fill, light. Okay. You will have a backlight. You will have a key light. In a 3 point lighting system, these are the three lights you need. Now, the key light is the main light lighting the objects in the scene. That's the character of the scene. Now, if I was supposed to model this classroom and the main object, like this is my desk, is the main object, the key lights will be focused directly on this object to brighten it up. The fill light is mostly used to soften the lighting around the object. So basically every other thing around the object. Then the backlight is supposed to give the object, like obvious from the name, backlight from the back, cutting off shadows at the back, but bringing out the visage of the character so that you have that definition in the scene. So it's the same thing in cinematography, same thing in camera work and all this stuff. Like, remember when we did our video that we shot this guy from here, and I was like, the angle you shot was wrong because the light is hitting the character. So your cameras, everything is just in front. There's nothing coming from the back, so it was too bright. Remember that scene now? That's the scene. So what we needed was a backlight that will counter the key light and stuff. So there's always that 3 point lighting. You can use more than three lights. You can use up to 10. Like for product visualization, for instance, you might want to add a fourth light, which would be like a rim light. The rim light is the one that will shine on, like if it's this desktop or this cup now, that will shine on the edges of at the top of the cup, but not everywhere else. So usually those kind of stuff. So we use different lighting. So like I said, 80% of the time or 90% of the time, if I want to be more accurate, you don't just use environmental lights. You have to use real lights that you created into your scene to give it that character. So let me show you how to create lights here in AutoCAD. Let me close this guy. Let me turn off this guy. I don't want the environment. I just want to work on this. So let me come out of my camera view and go back here. Let me use Southeast. Okay, so I can hold this around this camera. So I want to add lights to this scene now. Who is that? Son, are you hungry or are you high? So let's add lights. So still under visualize, we have lights here. So creating lights. We have 4 kinds of lights. Okay. It's the same kind of lights you saw in what? You want me to break that phone? You don't have respect. You don't. No, me too. Don't try it. You're in my class. Stop that rubbish. All right. The kind of lights we have here are in the same thing we have in After Effects. We had 4 lights, right? You had the spots and then blah, blah, blah. So the same thing. So this one just gives you an idea of what the lights are. Point light is like bulb, normal bulb, right? Spotlight is like torchlight. Good. Then we have distant light, which is like sunlight hitting from an angle. So then we have web light, which is like area light, like the kind of lighting that is in this classroom now. There's no bulb on, but the effect of the sunlight outside is brightening up the room. So like atmospheric kind of light, so area light, so web light, similar to that. So I want to add a light, a point light, to our lamp because that's a bulb. That's the only place I will need a bulb in this scene. I can't have a bulb in the air. So turn on, click on the point light, and then it will tell you the turn off the default lighting of your scene. Yes, turn it on. I mean, turn it off, sorry. Because if you're adding lights, you want to actually see that the light is working in your scene. So you want to make sure the scene is dark. That when you add the light is, you can now see what is happening. If not, if you keep the default lighting on, you may not really see the effect of the light and it will really affect how you model your scene. So I'm going to turn it off. And then I want to put my lights on the pole, my pole. So my O snap is on. So I'll just go to the top of my pole and click there and enter. So my light is now in that pole. But it's very bright, right? So to edit your light, you just select the light, right click on the light, and then go to properties. So sometimes it can be quite tricky to select your light. Let me can actually hide some of this stuff. Um, let me get back. Let me pick something that's my lighting is very typical, very difficult to select now. Let me go this. So yes, since you don't want to be selected. Let me pick lights. Good. So I want to right click on the lights and now I've selected the lights. No one make I click on something boring or fantasy. Yeah, it happens. So let me go to escape. So I'll go to properties and I want to reduce the intensity of my lights, intensity factor of my lights, but that's what's making it that bright. So lamp intensity is 1.5 and make it 500 just to get a particular result. Basically that. So you guys reduce the intensity of the light so that we can have less shine in the scene like this. So to increase intensity, obviously the light will be higher. So I'm just going to reduce the intensity to 500, or let me do 700. Most of these setups, like the The lights. Right click, lamp intensity. We're trying to reduce. Okay, as in to add your light. Reduce the intensity. Yeah, the lamp intensity. Automatic. Properties. Sorry. Key properties, second to last. Mm. Lamp intensity. Under photometric properties, the lamp intensity. So you can bring it down. I think it should be basic if 1.5. So you can bring it down to 700 or 500. So it's not too intense. So I'm using 700. Mm. So using this to render the scene will look a little bit more uh, situated, a little bit more saturated. So as a rendering, this will look a little bit more situated, but I think my 700 is still quite high, so I will come low. 700 is quite high. So I will come lower to the, let me go back here. My select my light again. Sometimes selecting this light can be a hassle. Oh, this guy blinking up and down. But I think I'm going to freeze you. Just disturbing me. Um, hmm? Is it properties? Right click. They listen and do.